It's so early. You guys want to get some coffee or something?
Can I get a cup of coffee? Black? Can't you see we talking? White?
Even little kids in Mexico drink coffee.
Well, I'm not a little kid in Mexico, okay?
That is the best coffee I've ever tasted.
A damn fine cup of coffee.
You want a cup of coffee?
No coffee.
Coffee drinker, huh?
Maybe we can grab some coffee?
Coffee! Coffee, 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 coffee!
God damn, Jimmy. This is some serious gourmet shit. Me and Vincent would have been satisfied with some freeze-dried Taster's Choice, right? And he springs this serious gourmet shit on us.
Good morning, and welcome to Morning Coffee with Chris. My name is Christopher Moonlight, and I want to welcome you to the show. Today, we are talking about Jon Favreau's Star Wars. Not specifically The Mandalorian, but Jon Favreau in general, where it looked like he was going with The Mandalorian and where it's headed now, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we'll also be covering some news items this morning because just when I thought I was out, AI drags me back in. But speaking of dragging people in, kicking and screaming, let's welcome our panel. First we have Das Wolfen. John, good morning.
Star Wars we will discuss.
Indeed we will. I wish I knew you were going to do that because I would have prepared myself with a good comeback for that. But you caught me off guard with a very good Yoda impersonation. Also, of course, our rock to which we crash against, Martine. Good morning.
Good morning, panel. Good morning, chat. Good morning to all of
Yes,
our audience.
Good morning to, of course, Jennifer Lawrence. She was first, as always. D. Bud Martin, Penny, Retro Nerd Girl, Anima Confusa, butchered the name again, Socks Bulletins, and Shadow Dragon, and of course, Monkey Jeebus. Thank you, come again. So thank you so much for all being here, and yeah. So Jon Favreau's Star Wars, we will get to that. I wanted to cover some, again, I know it's becoming a cliche with me, AI news. I thought I was done talking about it, but now there's a lawsuit. People are going to sue AI for damages, and I want to go over some of the articles. I want to go over their claims. I want to go over who these people are that are suing, who they're suing, and I want to be clear about something because I think maybe some people are misunderstanding me. I don't want to live in a world that's entirely run by AI. I don't want to live in a world that is just all AI generated artistic endeavors or entertainment endeavors. I do believe AI is a useful tool, but I think that because AI is here and it's happening, no matter what the lawsuits are, no matter what laws are passed, it's going to be a part of our lives. If you're going to want to resist it, if that's the right word, or come up with something counter to it, absolutely. I'm glad. I'm not going to try again because I'll make it worse, Anima. But I think the people who are going to present alternatives to it or ways to use it that aren't going to be just all encompassing are the ones who are going to understand it and not fight it. But yeah, definitely. I think, I've made it clear before, I'm a huge practical effects person. I do love CGI, and I'm using CGI in King's Poor Cow. John, you want to do the honors for that one?
I didn't have it prepped. Sorry.
What are you talking about?
The goddamn robots, John!
You should always have that one ready with me. Yeah, I'm a huge practical effects fan, and I do use CGI, but I look for ways to use practical effects anywhere I can because I love practical effects as an art form. And I think that CGI picks up the slack for me where practical effects won't do, or helps me clean up the practical effects in some way. Rod removal or green screen, things like that. Motion tracking is very handy. But I'm not against CGI. I just, I don't want to see one medium suppressed for another. And I think that's the same thing with the AI. As long as we keep embracing all sorts of different mediums and seeing their merits, AI is never going to take over and rule everything we do. But it's going to make our lives easier in a lot of ways by automating some things that, we may not want to spend time on. I used AI the other day to talk to someone who didn't speak English. They were speaking Spanish, and I was trying to have an interaction with them, just a brief one. And I just talked into the phone and asked it to translate it into Spanish for me. And I showed it to him. And then he talked into the phone and translated back to English for me. And we were able to get what we wanted, which was fantastic. So, Retro Nerd Girl, thank you. I'm a big practical effects fan. And before we go on, welcome, More Monkey. I should say that this show is sponsored by me. If we can share the screen, let's just go over here and copy paste. I can put that in the chat. My link tree, which leads to my Subscribe Star. If you want to support Escape from Planet Omega 12, which is an animated series that I'm working on, haven't announced the cast yet, but you are going to love the cast. So you can click over to my Subscribe Star, let's open that in a new tab. And I'm not going to scroll down because there's some stuff. Escape from Planet Omega 12 is not appropriate for kids on certain levels. So you will get access to exclusive content on my Subscribe Star and support Escape from Planet Omega 12, which will feature miniature sets, puppets combined with CGI characters and hand-drawn animation, as well as some AI-driven motion capture. I'm very excited about it, but we're featuring a lot of practical effects. I watched the first 4 episodes of Andor last night. It was rather boring, but I've heard it gets better. I still haven't been able to bring myself to watch it. I've been watching some indie films. People that I've been working with a little bit have sent me links to their indie films. So the thing about Andor, it's just my impression, and maybe I'm wrong, and this kind of goes towards what we'll be talking about in the after we cover the AI news, but I kind of see Andor as Star Wars as PBS or BBC would present it, which is not what originally attracted me to Star Wars. I'm not saying it's not good. There are people that really enjoy it, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that because there's a whole train of thought that we're going to go into. So first news item, but King's Percal, I think I'll do Obi-Wan next, then maybe the Bad Batch. I've been spacing out my Star Wars for when I run out of really cool poop I want to watch. Try not to swear for the YouTube algorithm. Omega 13 is right up my alley. 13 seconds to redeem a single mistake. Yes, there is a bit of an homage to Galaxy Quest in there. I dropped out of Andor, too boring for me. Okay, so let's get to the news items, and then we'll get to Star Wars. So Midjourney and DeviantArt face lawsuit over art made using AI tool. So it says on Friday, 3 artists, and we're going to cover who those 3 artists are, filed a proposed editor proposed a class action suit against major AI image generating companies, Stability AI, DeviantArt, and Midjourney, alleging they infringed on copyright laws through the use of collecting tool Stability Diffusion. Stable Diffusion contains unauthorized copies of millions and possibly billions of copyright images. These copies were made without the knowledge or consent of the artists, their lawyer, Matthew Butterick, alleged on the litigation website on Friday. So, first of all, no, there are no images. They're already losing their suit here. It doesn't contain any images. Good stuff, by the way. Yes, I'm still drinking Fuel Up. No, I don't know when the code is coming so we can start plugging it as a sponsor of the show. I'm about to run out of this stuff, though, because my wife really loves it, and she's been drinking it, and I'm running out quick. So I hope they send me more. So let's hop over to, of course, there's an article on this. I'm going to scroll down. Here's one of the plaintiffs, Kelly McKiernan. For the AI artists profiting on my name, this is a tweet from her. Share some of that wealth. I have bills and rent to pay, groceries to buy, and a kid to support. The least you can do is throw $20 my way. I'm a real human artist, barely making ends meet, and your actions have real consequences. So I'm going to argue here something that a lot of people, a lot of artists who are saying AI is taking business away from artists are not going to want to hear. The fact of the matter is before AI dropped, yes, well, we got to do news items. We got to fill up that 2 hours at Kings Per Cal. These artists, I've seen their Twitter posts for years, and for years we've been seeing the, especially in the comic book sphere, this thing where they're going, comics are better than ever. The art world is a viable, career, that sort of thing. But they're always talking about how broke they are. And I mean, I understand that. I've worked as an artist, and there's been highs and lows, feast or famine. I'm currently interviewing 2 interviews tomorrow for 2 different jobs because I'm not making ends meet purely as an artist. And so I have to go and do something about that. I can't just sit on my butt waiting for art to be a lucrative career. It either it is or it isn't. And that's something that I've had to contend with for years, and every artist does. It is incredibly difficult to make money as an artist, even if you are good at it. So to claim suddenly that AI is the culprit, the new whipping boy, I mean, you're just essentially finding a scapegoat. And if you're filing a class action lawsuit, which this is a Twitter post, I won't click over to her Twitter, and please don't contact any of these people. Don't start fights with them. This isn't what this is about. But this is, essentially, let's see. I'm sure anyone here could talk for Star Wars 2 hours, but hey, get your AI on. I intend to. I'm in control here. I am the Senate. But yeah, you're gonna look for ways to maybe grift off of the fact that everyone is talking about this. Am I grifting by talking about it on the show? No, it's just a very interesting subject. For me, I actually have no monetary motivation to defend AI. I just find it a very interesting subject. And I also find it very interesting, the reaction of everyone to it. So here is, let's see. Is this the... Oh, okay. Yeah, this is kind of funny. So this is their claim. We filed a lawsuit challenging Stable Diffusion, a 21st century college tool that violates the rights of artists because AI needs to be fair and ethical for everyone. Every time I hear someone talk about the ethics of something, usually it's just the fulcrum for which they want to leverage you to be a victim of their browbeating. Hello, this is Matthew Buttrick. I am a writer, designer, programmer, and lawyer. So he's making money. In November 2022, I teamed up with the amazing, excellent class action litigators, blah, 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 these different names, Joseph Severi Law Firm, to file a lawsuit against GitHub Copilot for its unprecedented open source software piracy. That lawsuit is still in progress. In other words, you know, it doesn't mean anything because no verdict has been reached. This is kind of something that they do. Lawsuits are filed whether they can win or not because, you know, they can say anything they want. They can make any claims they want. Hasn't been disproven or not. So it's, you know, it's the playing field is wide open. So I'm not going to bore you by reading all of this, but there's some things that are very interesting about this. The problem with diffusion. Okay, so this is interesting. The diffusion technique was invented in 2015 by AI researchers at Stanford University. The diagram below takes from the Stanford team's research, illustrates the two phases of the diffusion process using training data in the shape of a spiral. So what they're trying to do here is they're trying to go, here's the spiral. Here's how it's diffused. All right. And then here is the diffusion being made back into a spiral. And they go, oh, it's just recreating the same spiral. And that's what they say here. The first phase in diffusion is to take an image or other data and progressively add more visual noise to it in a series of steps. This process is depicted in the top row of the diagram. At each step, the AI records how the addition of noise changes the image. By the last step, the image has been diffused into essentially random noise. The second phase is like the first, but in reverse. This process is depicted in the bottom row of the diagram, which reads right to left. Having recorded the steps that turn a certain image into noise, the AI can run those steps backwards, starting with some random noise, and the AI applies the steps in reverse. By removing noise or denoising the data, the AI will produce a copy of the original image. So something for those who are not watching this but are listening, and I'm trying to be as descriptive as possible because we are going to be on KGRA or KGRA. Welcome to Wolverine 626. So one of the things that I'll point out, though, is the second spiral that's quote unquote recreated from the using the noise to generate an image. There's two problems with this. One, what they kind of ignore is the recreated spiral is different. It is very similar, but it is a different spiral, and you can see that it still has noise around it, and the shape of it is slightly different. Now, a spiral is a very simple object. So it's very easy to point at a spiral and say, look at how similar this is. The other thing that they don't point out is that a diffusion model recreating an image doesn't recreate from one image. It learns from the variations of noise from different images it looks like. Monkey Jeebus says people aren't using it to copy someone else's work then resell it. It's making a new creation. Exactly. So here's the thing. Here's how a human being learns to draw. Say I want to learn how to draw the human body, male or female. Well, I do that, and I have done that in very different ways. One way is to go take life drawing classes, which I did. I showed up, and there were various nude models. Every class was a different model, sometimes male, sometimes female. I got anatomy books. I looked through Gray's Anatomy. I looked through different artists and saw how they approach drawing the human figure. I just watched We Can't Play Tool for copyright reasons. Good band, though. So, you know, the example that I saw someone once use was a bus. If you want to teach an AI to recreate a bus, say a school bus, you show it different images of school buses, different variations, different makes and models. and it finds that general noise pattern that helps train it to recognize what noise patterns make a bus. It's kind of like Plato's realm of forms. With Plato, the realm of forms was essentially the idea that somewhere there is a realm where there is the ideal version of everything. So there's the ideal dog. There's like the ultimate in dogness personified in a dog in the realm of forms. I could be kind of describing this wrong, and you know, John or Martin, if you're familiar with this concept, feel free to jump in. Alan Moore kind of has his own variation. The comic book, Kingsport Cal, you know me so well. Alan Moore had the idea space, where essentially everything exists in idea space before it becomes something real. That we as human beings are able to take things from idea space and make them real. So, you know, say we have an idea for a chair. Well, the chair existed first in idea space, and we as human beings have the ability to manifest a chair through finding the raw materials and constructing that chair in the vision of that likeness. So AI kind of trains in the same way that human beings do, and that's not by accident. You know, when we create, we use ourselves as a reference first. Just as God created man in his own image, we create AI in our own image. So we figured out kind of a basic idea of how we learn, and then we trained a computer to do something similar, except it uses complex algebra. It's still quite a mystery what the human brain actually does. The human brain is still infinitely more complex than a computer. So should artists be sued for copying someone else's character designs? Well, yeah, this is essentially where it comes into the fair use thing. So I'm going to scroll down here because they instantly contradict themselves. So fair use, he is a cool weirdo. Yeah, I don't agree with everything philosophically Alan Moore exposits. I think he has some good ideas. He draws very different conclusions than I would from them. But he still is a smart fellow, and I think he's worth considering. He writes good comic book stories, and he has some interesting perspectives. I think different perspectives are how we arrive at different ideas, which, again, this lawsuit, now this is a very long thing, and I invite you to go and read it. StableDiffusionLitigation.com. So after presenting the stable diffusion model of the spiral, they show us this diffuse source. And they say the diagram below, taken from the Berkeley team's research, shows how this process works. Now, I think, did I click on this? Let's see. Let's click on this. This is a very small piece of information. And it's interesting. They say that the diagram below, taken from the Berkeley team's research, shows how this process works. You'll notice they say it's taken from here, but the link they give, when you click on it, I don't see that. Now, I haven't been through all of this. It may be here somewhere, but I just found that was very interesting that the link that they gave, that they claim they got this from, doesn't have this on it. But it may be on there. But they show this is a diffusion source, denoise interpolation, source, pixel space interpretation. So they're trying to kind of act like they just took two photos and merged them together. Maybe in the research, for the sake of explanation, they just use two photos, and in reality, diffusion model takes from all sorts of different diffuse sources. Essentially, it finds the noise pattern, it discards the image. This is the thing that they keep claiming, is that this taking artist images, it looks at the image and it creates noise patterns, because noise patterns are take much less space to store than images do. So there's no library of images. They keep saying this in different instances, different arguments against AI that I've seen, and it's not true. So the denoise okay, but they're saying denoised interpolation, but they're showing photos. So they're being a bit disingenuous here. Again, just kind of trying to paint a picture, no pun intended, of an image being generated from mashing together two photos, which is not how it works. So they have further sources, and of course, any litigation is going to pick sources that are biased. And a lot of sources, quote unquote sources that I've seen are really opinions that lie by omission. So let's talk about some of the people doing this, and I'll spend a few more minutes on this, and then we'll get to talking about Star Wars. Almost. So Sarah Anderson. So she does this oddball, and you may have seen this. Have you guys ever seen this girl's comics? They float around virally.
No, I don't think I have.
No?
Oh, yeah, those I have. Yeah, those I have. Yeah.
Yeah. So she kind of has this cutesy clip art style. And I've read a few of them, and they're funny. They're kind of cute. They kind of glorify being an introvert. This is something, I don't know. I'm not a fan of this trend, but then again, I'm not an introvert, obviously, or else I wouldn't be doing this show. I'm a people person. I like being out and about. Sarah Anderson is a cartoonist and illustrator. She graduated from the Maryland Institute College of Art in 2014. She currently lives in Portland, Oregon. Big surprise there. Her semi-autobiographical comic strip, Sarah's Scribbles, finds the humor in living as an introvert. Her graphic novel, Fangs, was nominated for an Eisner Award. She didn't win. This is the part I find hilarious. She also wrote The Alt-Right Manipulated My Comic, Then AI Claimed It for the New York Times. Monkey Jeebus says, it's the artist's own fault for not understanding technology and putting images online. They sign away rights with terms of service using a browser. Yeah, that's absolutely true. For years, too, people are saying, please read the terms of service before you put your art on a site. And, they're more than happy to take advantage of that site for promotion for free. But as soon as they start seeing the consequences of the trade they made, which, it's a negotiation. The alt-right copied her 2-year-old style she copied from children. So this is funny. I clicked on this. Let's see, not this one here. The alt-right manipulated my comic, then AI claimed it. At 19, we'll read a little bit of it. It's, like a lot, it's long. I'm not going to. Yeah, it's long. But, it's kind of a clip art style. It's very simple. I think most people could come up with something similar, but it's hers. I'll give her that. It's an instantly recognizable style that she has made a name for herself on. I think I'm going to have, again, I don't know how much money she makes selling this stuff or how loyal her fan following is, but the thing about what she does is it's like little, you can see they're 4-panel comics, sitting separately, leaves room, follows, continues sitting separately. Not particularly hilarious, but if you're a cat person, you can kind of relate to it. But it's, you can take that and post it on Instagram. People can share it around. It can become a viral meme. It's a very memeable type of thing. I'm going to imagine that she probably doesn't make a lot of money with viral memes. She probably sells some stuff, and good for her, and I hope she does very well with it. But I can see how people would just take it and run with it. So what does she say? At 19, when I began drafting my webcomic, I had just been flung into adulthood. I felt a little awkward, a little displaced. The glittering veneer of social media, which back then was mostly Facebook, told me that everyone around me had their lives together, while I felt like a withering ball of mediocrity. But surely I believe I could not be the only one who felt that life was mostly an uphill battle of difficult moments and missed social cues. I started my webcomic back in 2011 before relatable humor was as ubiquitous online as it is today. Okay. At the time, the comics were overly simple, often drawn shakily in Microsoft Paint or poorly scanned sketchbook pages. The jokes were less punchline oriented and more of a question. Do you feel this way too? I wrote about this. Okay, blah, blah, blah. I had hoped at most for a small niche, but okay, still talking. But the attention was not all positive. In late 2016, I caught the eye of someone on 4chan. Dun, dun, dun. Poll, political. So for those who are not familiar, on the 4chan board's poll stands for political, the political board. There was no particular incident that prompted the harassment, but in hindsight, I was a typical target for such groups. I am a woman. The messaging in the comics is feminist leaning and importantly, the simplicity of my work makes it easy to edit and mimic. People on the forum began reproducing my work and editing it to reflect violently racist messages advocating genocide and Holocaust denial. Of course, we're not going to see any of that on here. Complete with SWAT stickers and introduction of people getting pushed into ovens. The images proliferated online with sites like Twitter and Reddit rarely taking them down. So in other words, you became a meme and edgelords altered your stuff.
Does she have examples of this?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Let's see. It's like music to my ears. I might die of joy. Many such causes. Reading a crooked Hillary's Twitter feed. This is very stupid.
Okay, how's that violent?
I don't know.
How's that?
Is she saying that? Is this one of the images created by the alt-right? Okay, reading Donald Trump's Twitter feed. It's like music to my ears. I might die of joy. Many such cases. Reading Crooked Hillary's Twitter feed. This is very stupid. This reads like, I don't know. This reads like someone who thinks this is what the alt-right would do. Let's see.
That doesn't even look like her work.
Yeah. An AI generated image that I created when I used my name as a prompt. Okay. So what? In that case, you actually asked an AI to create something. So it's you who are responsible for this image. Anyway, so blah, 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 cope, cry. Again, I wish her well. I've seen some of her comics. She's done some cute stuff. I have friends that share her stuff who are introverts. Good on her. But again, this is you kind of like pulling out your own chalk and drawing your own chalk line around your still living body. You're okay. People you want to talk about people taking comic strips and altering them to suit their means. Just search the hashtag I'm sorry, John, as in John Arbuckle, Jon. You will find that there is an entire community, and Super Eye Patch Wolf did I'm going to read Monkey's War Monkey's comment in a second. There's an entire space, an entire community of people who have found Lovecraftian madness in Garfield and have made amazing stories around it. Lovecraftian Garfield stories. Hashtag I'm sorry, John. Go check out Super Eye Patch Wolf's YouTube channel. He does an hour plus long video about Garfield and how the internet has changed Garfield and The Simpsons. If you're going to put your stuff out there, this is what fan art is. You're going to get people creating new takes on your work. They're not profiting from it. And if they are, yeah, absolutely, you have a right to sue over it. But if they use AI to do it or do it on their own, that's on them. Just like you entering your name into an AI and getting a result is on you. Good morning, Scribe Light, my neighbor on the moon. Cut your lawn. I told you last episode, we're going to start sending you more letters. The HOA is not pleased with your moongrass. Anyway, what did War Monkey say? Can we bring that comment back up? I didn't want to miss that. Had to step out for a second, so miss what this article is. But from what I've seen, I would bet she was very vocal and mean to others who then they called her out for it, and now she's blaming others. I mean, this is a lot of what it is. Suddenly, people have found someone to blame for them not making money. So, is Garfield a disciple of lasagna? I can't do it. It's a Lovecraftian word.
Lasagna Gerlethopter.
Yep.
A Lovecraftian word combined with lasagna. First of all, Scribe, it's genius that you wrote that. I'm actually kind of in awe that you managed to mesh lasagna and a Lovecraftian word so well together. That's awesome. So here's the other person. This is the person claiming poverty. I'm poor, so AI people should give me money because no one's giving me money for my art. And it looks, I don't know what she's drawing here, but it looks colorful and nice. I love Garfield as a kid. I had a huge collection of books, says War Monkey, and stuffed animals. Even won a giant Garfield from the Jersey Boardwalk. I was proud of it. LOL. Yeah, Garfield was everywhere when I was a kid. Johanan Vasquez Suher. Johanan. I was still on John with I'm sorry, John, when I read that. And I hate Mondays, says War Monkey. So yeah, Kelly McKiernan. Again, don't contact any of these people. We're just reviewing what they said. But she's pleading poverty already. I'm willing to bet that her art wasn't making her a living as it is. So here's the one that really, Carla Ortiz is a Puerto Rican, internationally recognized award-winning artist with their exceptional design sense, realistic renders, and character-driven narratives. Carla has contributed to many big-budget projects in the film, television, video game industry. Carla is also a regular illustrator for major publishing and role-playing game companies. Carla's figurative and mysterious art has been showcased in notable galleries such as Spoke Art and Hashimoto Contemporary in San Francisco, Nucleus Gallery, ThinkSpace, and Maxwell Alexander Gallery at Los Angeles, blah, blah, blah. Actually, I think I'm mixing these two up. Let's see. So Kelly McKiernan is an independent artist based in Nashville. They graduated original, watercolors, acrylic, gouache, private commissions, online stores, social media. She's got a social media following. She's got tutorials and workshops, travels across the U.S. for events and comic. For some reason, I thought one of these was an installation artist, which was kind of funny. But, I understand how people are, they're threatened by it, about how it might impact their work, or how it might impact their place in the market. And that's something that AI is going to completely change the marketplace, and that's understandable why people be intimidated by that. But I certainly do not believe in trying to artificially control the marketplace to favor one person over another because one person doesn't like it. So anyway, ultimately what it comes down to is this. I am glad this lawsuit is happening, because what's going to happen is the grifters, the copium huffers, are going to have to contend with the reality of what AI art is and what copyright laws say about how you can have fair use or interpretations of art, and actually lay out how diffusion models work, and that they don't depend on an individual artist's style, or, and even if they did, a style is not copyrightable. So it's going to lay everything out. And I just thought I would cover this in the first part of the show, because I saw a lot of people on Twitter kind of going like, see, I told you so. Now there's a lawsuit and you know, acting like this is a big victory. It's not. It's absolutely going to lay everything out on the table of what AI art is, what the laws are, and it's going to put things to rest. And although there will always be people and politicians trying to regulate stuff that they have no business regulating, which we're going to get into as well as part of Star Wars, then you know, there will be regulations, there will be laws. Will they be just? Will they be, you know, they'll go through the courts and they'll get worked out, hopefully in ways that keep the market free and enable everybody to create how they want to. So that's all I'm going to say about that. So let's get to the good stuff. Let's get to Star Wars, specifically Jon Favreau's Star Wars. Just going off of the first season of The Mandalorian, John Martin, what was your impression of Jon Favreau's Star Wars at that point, before we saw season 2 or any of the other stuff?
Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni saved Star Wars.
First season, that was your impression? Because that was my impression too. What about you, Martin?
Well, I didn't jump on the he saved Star Wars thing, but it to me was clearly a good sign. A very good intent to return to form.
Yeah. And when, by the way, when John, when you say save Star Wars, I probably have a little bit of a different interpretation of what save Star Wars is. Oh, quiet, Winston. Let's see. First of all, I'm going to recommend, before we go on, I'm going to recommend this video to people because it's a banger and it is ruffling a lot of feathers, which I'm enjoying. Abraham Lincoln, American dictator. And I promise you, I actually have a reason in the context of Jon Favreau's Star Wars. But it's very interesting. Essentially, it's talking about Abraham Lincoln and his actual motives during the Civil War, how he handled the Civil War, how he suspended the Constitution and essentially became a dictator. The horrible things he did to both political opponents and the media of the time. His actual views on slavery. Yeah, so, but there's a reason it's the, Alex Moore is here. Good morning. And Decepticon's Cave of Comics and Toys. Welcome. You can actually make a claim Abe was a dictator for a while. Yeah, until he was shot, because he never gave up his powers. He never unsuspended the Constitution. But I wanted to bring that up, and Martin, we can take away the screen, the second screen now. I just wanted to bring it up. It's worth watching because in my opinion, the story of America has always been a continuing fight for freedom. And that went from the Revolutionary War to the Civil War. And if you watch Razor Fist's video, which we can take down, Martin, you will see that it leads directly into what we know as the Old West, the cowboys, the expansion into the West Coast. And essentially, it essentially became the Hollywood Western and, a big part of the story of America. And I think that the first season of The Mandalorian really felt like Jon Favreau was taking his cues from Old West television, or maybe stories like, I don't know, Paladin, or even the Incredible Hulk show, or The Fugitive, shows like that, where essentially there was a main quest, a main goal of the protagonist, but really it always took a back seat to wherever he was for that episode. So the Critical Drinker described it as him constantly getting side quests, which he felt was a negative. But I kind of felt it was a positive. And I thought that the best part and how it saves Star Wars was by actually kind of separating itself from Star Wars a bit and just being like, okay, this is set in the time after the movies. And we're kind of, in the, like Kings Porcal points out, the spaghetti Western era of the Star Wars universe, this kind of post-war era where, maybe slaves are set free. People are trying to make their way through this kind of Wild West, this frontierism of the Star Wars universe,
Chris.
and kind of show us that aspect of it. Because for me, Star Wars, the main Star Wars, was always the story of the Skywalkers, and you could do separate stuff in the novels, the expanded universe, or with Filoni, the Clone Wars, which I enjoyed sometimes, and other times I was like, these episodes are crap. But that was kind of the beauty of it, was you could take it or leave it, whatever it was. So that is kind of where the real potential of season 1 of The Mandalorian, and some of season 2 as well, I really enjoyed. It's kind of this kind of lone cowboy, man with no name, even though he has a name, but like Clint Eastwood was. He'd travel from town to town, and they kind of threw in that lone wolf and cub samurai aspect of it, with Grogu being the cub. I mean, I think there's some really great episodes, and I think, again, it was kind of set in a way that you could kind of take or leave whatever episodes you liked or didn't like, without having to be sucked into the Star Wars universe. And I've got a favorite episode, and I've got favorite characters. And I started the show, of course, with my Cara Dune, Gina Carano shirt. But I don't know, John, do you have a favorite episode? Was there something about it that really kind of stood out for you that you enjoyed?
Well, I liked the whole first season was great, but the fight between Cara Dune and Din Djarin, with Grogu standing there looking at him, is my absolute favorite moment of the series. With him just drinking on the cup. I've even got the Funko Pop of him drinking out of the cup during that fight.
Oh, they actually made a Funko Pop of that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not the whole fight. Just it's him drinking out of the cup, but that's what it's from.
Yeah, it's become a meme. I mean, I see people use it, and it's a GIF. To me, it kind of took the essence of Star Wars and the essence of all these other things that we love about, old Westerns or samurai, but without having to be too precious about it. Kings Porcal says, I like all of Mando. It's the best Star Wars stuff I've seen since the OG trilogy. I think it's definitely up there in that range. Results may vary in people's different opinions of it. I really liked that episode because, again, it was, it didn't have to be precious about the Magnificent Seven or the Seven Samurai, but that's essentially, they're doing kind of like a light version of that, which was Mando and Cara Dune training instead of being the Magnificent Seven, they're the Magnificent Two. And they're training the village. And we talked about this with the Evil Dead episode, as an army of darkness is essentially turns into the Magnificent Seven at the end. And I keep saying the Magnificent Seven just because I'm coming at a place with, someone who grew up with Westerns on more than samurai movies, but I realize it comes from the Seven Samurai originally. And, it's also kind of a nod to George Lucas, in the fact that Lucas borrowed from Hidden Fortress, and that,
oh yeah,
and that Battle Beyond the Stars, which was a knockoff of Star Wars, also decided to do the Magnificent Seven. Essentially, it's like who can do the sci-fi version? And yeah, we're going to talk about the trailer because that's the second trailer that's dropped for The Mandalorian. There was one, I think, about 3 or 4 weeks ago as well. But that's what I really liked about it, was essentially it doesn't have to be precious about too much of anything, but it can play with it all. And, you can take it or leave it episode by episode. That's where I thought that the real potential in it was great. And I thought that's where Jon Favreau really stuck the landing. Yeah, so I mean, the way you meet him is cool. It's kind of that man with no name, like the opening to, I think it was For a Few Dollars More, was the opening that they were probably paying homage to, where he goes into a bar and goes for the one subject and ends up killing everyone else that tries to stop him. And then the second episode was, kind of the first episode was the mission, and they showed us some familiar stuff. They showed us stormtroopers. They showed us, was it IG-11? I always forget the robot's name.
IG-11.
Yeah.
They show us the Ugnaught, which I forget what his name is, but it's voiced by Nick Nolte, which...
Quill.
What's that?
I think his was named Quill.
Yeah,
Yep.
that was it. So
I've spoken.
Yeah, which was great. Again, this is something I love too about the characters. They're instantly identifiable. They're not terribly complex, but they don't need to be. And this is one of the things that why I haven't watched Andor yet, is people keep talking about how it's a more mature Star Wars. It's like, forget about the lightsabers and all the, all that stuff. It's more of a intriguing story. And like I said, to me, it just looks like the PBS version or the BBC version of Star Wars, which, is fine if that's what you want. If that, I have nothing against that. Yeah, the music is really great in The Mandalorian as well. King's Porkel, I agree. Again, it's kind of got that Western flavor. So yeah, all the ingredients were there, and it gave you what you wanted. It gave you aliens, it gave you robots, it gave you Star Wars. One of the things I've seen people complaining about the new trailer is that essentially this, like, oh no, this TIE fighter zooming around and lightsabers, and it's all the, we thought we were getting away from that stuff. I'm like, why are you watching Star Wars if you don't want that stuff? I mean, that's what Star Wars, that's the universe that these characters exist in. We like to see lightsabers. We like to see ships zooming around. So this idea of kind of creating a more mature, thoughtful Star Wars, it's more adult oriented. That's never what Star Wars was about. Star Wars was, you're a little kid, you show up and you get high adventure. You get the swashbuckling aspect of it. You get the strange creatures. Wolverine 626.
I beg to differ.
Let me read Wolverines and then I'll let you say what you're going to say. The Mandalorian has been the best Star Wars has had to offer, but the garbage sequel trilogy makes it hard to invest. Yeah, we're going to cover that part as well, because unfortunately, my enthusiasm for The Mandalorian is waning just as much as for everything else Star Wars. But Martin, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's very dismissive, because for me the best part of Return of the Jedi is in fact the most adult part, and which is the part in which Palpatine tries to seduce Luke, and the emotional conflict between Luke and his father. That is what we are watching, translated into physical action as a fight. But that is not really a physical fight. It's an emotional situation translated into movement, into aggression. That is the best part of that movie, and it's the adult part. So call it like you don't want to see anything grown up. You don't want to see nothing mature in Star Wars. I cannot agree with that part.
Well, I'm not saying that I don't want to see things that are grown up. And I agree with you that that's the heart of Return of the Jedi. There really wouldn't be a movie if it wasn't for the story of the Skywalker saga. You're a little kid, you show up and get high. Did I say that?
It may be surmised into that. And this one, I don't think that is just Jedi and Sith. The Jedi and Sith are just a heightened part of what Star Wars is, and is good versus evil.
You gotta remember the whole thing about Jedi. Everybody's like, "Oh, Jedi, Jedi, Jedi," or Sith, Sith, Sith. They're supposed to be exceedingly rare.
Yeah,
They're not supposed to be the main story arc. I mean, they're supposed, they're told in context of the story of Star Wars.
They are the chunk of chicken in your soup.
But there's a whole other universe out there. And you don't need to tell a Star Wars story with Jedi.
Well, again,
you don't need to tell a Star Wars story with Sith.
I agree with that, but I think that the Skywalkers, again, are at the heart of the Star Wars universe. Everything expands out from them.
Not necessarily.
And
in the beginning, you could say that, but man, I'm absolutely ready for a Star Wars without the Skywalkers. In fact,
this is, I mean,
again,
this is
make
where
Ahsoka the center of the story, and I would be happy with that.
Well, I think that really, I mean, as cool as it was to see Luke Skywalker return in The Mandalorian, I would actually argue that that was the final nail in the coffin for The Mandalorian. Because The Mandalorian isn't called Star Wars The Mandalorian, it's just called The Mandalorian, which allows you to kind of separate yourself from this, if you're a casual observer, from the Star Wars universe. And I think that the desire to tie everything back in, I know I sound like I'm contradicting myself here, but to tie everything back into the core Star Wars story is kind of like what you're saying, John, is that, they are supposed to be exceedingly rare. And I think even, Lucas, he even kind of dropped the ball on what the Jedi were in the prequels a little bit, because the idea of Luke in the original trilogy becoming stoic wasn't about him just becoming a Jedi. It was just the idea of him becoming more mature, shedding that kind of whiny teenager, superficial aspect of himself for, someone who's kind of gone on the hero's journey, gone into, his darkest hour, and then come out more reserved. I thought that the best portrayal of Jedi in the prequels was Obi-Wan Kenobi, because he was still kind of swashbuckling, had a sense of humor. He was like the only Jedi that didn't come off as a stick in the mud.
Dude, the best Jedi in the prequels was Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yeah, he was great as well, because again,
the prequels destroyed Yoda for me. They made that final scene into X, and let's go, dude, keep fighting. Don't give up.
That didn't make any sense to me. It's a high ground thing, which, again, never made sense. But I saw a great meme the other day when Padme falls into the sand, and instead of Anakin saying we have to get her, it's Obi-Wan, and Anakin's like, no, she's covered in sand now, leave her. Welcome, Zax, and Mighty Orbots, one of my favorites. So yeah, I mean, okay, so season 2 comes along, and I thought it was off to a good start. Again, like, okay, he's quested to find the Jedi. I thought that would have been a great way to just keep the show rolling. He never finds the Jedi. It's just always, his quest to find them would take him from planet to planet and all of these different adventures. I thought, at the end of it, either one of two things should happen. He rescues Grogu, and then they go on looking for the Jedi, or Luke takes him and then he's gone for good. But again, they had to. Then Book of Boba Fett happened.
Well, in my understanding, the taking Grogu out of the picture was a move that Caitlin Kennedy was.
She
able
wanted to
pull.
do that.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
then you see how Favreau managed to get him back. If you take Grogu from the series, you kill half the series.
Well, let's. Shouldn't we be playing some music out at this point too? We got it.
Oh yes, I'm so sorry. I was just.
We got into it. So we're going to talk about that in the next hour.
Let me see. I found it. And
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the middle of the film.
Anima must be asleep because she's not scolding me for being late.
We got to, yeah, we'll get on. We'll get on this. I hope we get onto KGRA very soon.
The 1st of February is our start date with UFO Wednesday.
For UFO Wednesday.
Not nervous at all.
No, we're all going to be on there. It's just it starts on February 1st.
No,
for
what
UFO
I'm saying
Wednesday.
is I'm not nervous at all about that. No.
Kings Cal says, I thought Luke was going to take Baby Yoda.
He did, and Baby Yoda rejected him. So he rejected the Jedi path. He's like, I
want my dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if there's anything that this is kind of the thing that really bugged me about that is, Luke is essentially presenting to what amounts to a toddler the option, a very grown-up choice. And it's like, no, the whole idea was that we need to train this little kid, and Joe's atmosphere is here, so he doesn't succumb to his emotions and turn to the dark side. That was, and then as soon as he gets them, he's like, oh, you want the Mandalorian or want me? Oh, you want the Mandalorian? Okay, here you go.
Look, man, you have to see it this way. The love that Grogu has for Din. Imagine if Grogu gets as powerful as he can be, and someone just fucked up Din. We will have the whole Anakin Padme situation again.
Yeah,
so it's better than Grogu goes away.
I think it would have just been better if, like I said, I think that the two choices would have been never find a Jedi and just keep doing season after season and have them go on different adventures, or to, like I said, have them taken out of the picture at least for a while, and then maybe have do a time jump, have them return and be a bit older, be talking, something like that. One thing I'm thinking, God, I have not seen in the new trailer. Not that at this point I care either way. Is there was a rumor that Grogu was going to be in an IG-11 mech suit, and he was going to walk around like essentially piloting IG-11's body, which would have been really dumb. So I'm glad I didn't see that. Have you guys watched the new trailer yet?
Nope.
No. I don't know if we'll get. I've seen other people watch it, but I'll just talk about what's on it. But I just want to say again, like, season 2 did have cool stuff. I love the first episode. I love the whole teaming up again to defeat the worm thing. What was it called? This is my impression of it. Crepe Dragon, was that it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Crepe Dragon.
yeah, the Crepe Dragon.
Yeah, that was fun. And I liked, boy, did I have high hopes for Robert Rodriguez directing Star Wars when they did that episode where essentially it was just pure action. They should use his force powers to pilot the egg faster and wield a blaster. The egg?
I don't think he has the egg-shaped cradle anymore.
No, he's outgrown that.
The Imperial destroyed it.
It looks like he's in another one in the new trailer. Looks like they got a new. He's got a new floaty. By the way, speaking of eggs, though, it's something I keep wanting to point out. Have you guys seen Jon Favreau's movie Elf, the Christmas movie with Will Ferrell?
Yeah.
No.
I just thought that, I don't know if he did it intentionally just to kind of as a callback or if it's just kind of a trope that he thinks is funny. But I always think of Buddy the Elf eating the cotton balls. You keep trying to stop him from eating the cotton balls. And then they did the gag with Grogu eating the eggs. Like every time someone turns away, he eats another one of the eggs. Yeah, King Sparkle, you're right. It is in the trailer that he's got one. So I thought that was funny. So there's just, fun stuff. Marooned on an ice planet with, spider creatures trying to get your ship. But as soon as it kind of goes into the dark saber territory and all these other Mandalorians and again, the Mandalorians are supposed to be nearly extinct, but now they're all kind of coming back. I don't know. Again, it's trying to tie it into a bigger drama. And at least this soon in the game and try and tie it back into Luke Skywalker.
The Mandalorians weren't destroyed. They were scattered when their home planet was bombed.
Yeah, but
they weren't destroyed like the Jedi. The Jedi were hunted to extinction practically. Yeah. That's why there's so few. And the only Jedi that are left are those Force sensitives, not super powerful because they stayed off the radar.
And Ahsoka Tano.
Yeah, well,
I'm glad. I am happy to see. You see, I think Ahsoka Tano could make a great reoccurring character that would come in and out of the Mandalorian's life, just like Cara Dune.
My theory about the reason why Ahsoka survived is because Anakin didn't look for her hard. He deliberately left that a blind spot because he's like, I don't want to, after that fight in the temple and then finding her lightsabers on the frozen planet. He's like, okay, she's not going to be an issue. Let's keep her alive because I have a soft spot for her. He cares about her. It's just Padawan.
I mean, things like that don't really. Sister. Yeah, things like that really don't kind of stick in my mind as important or not. It's like if she found a way to kind of stay off the radar, fine. I don't need a big long explanation of that. But anyway, I mean, it is what it is. But like I said, I think trying to make these bigger stories and continually kind of keep the Mandalorian in the same space rather than let him go out into the universe and find all of these different things that would be, interesting adventures, different people he could help, different planets and mysteries that he could explore. I always got the sense that that's what Lucas wanted to do. And even with the prequels, he was trying to take you to different planets. Yeah, he took you back to Tatooine as the origin of Anakin Skywalker, but, he was... when he was working with Filoni on the Clone Wars, it was like always different planets, these different cultures, these different things going on throughout the universe. And with the new Mandalorian trailer, you've got deserts again.
It's cheaper to produce.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another thing is, I mean, with the volume, that's a little bit of a mystery to me though, because with the volume, you can make any world. Let's see, that Cal guy is a tight character as well, the Timothy Oliphant dude.
Yeah, but Boba ruined it at the end.
Yeah,
making him a cyborg and shit.
And okay, so the Book of Boba Fett, I mean, I don't know all the stories, but you hear all these different rumors, but it sounds to me like Jon Favreau just kind of noped out in the middle of it. And again, I can't speak to all the rumors about Kathleen Kennedy and her involvement or Robert Rodriguez. You hear different things. Robert Rodriguez wanted to do the Vespas, because he thought that was clever. But the Book of Boba Fett was a massive disappointment. And at first I thought, the first couple of episodes, I thought, all right, it's just off to a slow, bumpy start. I thought for a second it was going to head into kind of Lawrence of Arabia territory, that he was going to become like, he was going to use the Sand people to take back Tatooine, like Lawrence of Arabia or something like that. But I don't even know, like, I can't even make heads or tails of what Book of Boba Fett was, just like I couldn't make heads or tails of what The Rise of Skywalker was. It was just, and then this happened, and then this happened. And then, it's like, what is going on? Why am I even watching this? Why did anybody even bother to make this?
Why did they call it The Rise of Skywalkers when all the Skywalkers are dead?
Yeah. It's The Rise of Palpatine.
Yeah.
But I mean, the book, I honestly, I feel frustrated and confused even trying to recall what happened in the Book of Boba Fett. It's just like a really confusing video game or something where characters just kind of show up and say something and then you move on. Like, I was like, are we going to be dealing with the Hutts? Are we going to be dealing with the Sand people? Are we going to, like, what is going on here? And even the actor that plays him, I forget his name, who I really love. I thought it was a brilliant idea to bring him back and have him be Boba Fett, because he was Jango Fett in the
Temura
prequels.
Morrison.
Yeah. Even he's shrugging his shoulders, going like, yeah, they totally blew it. I don't know what the hell's wrong with this. So, and then Obi-Wan happened. And that was just a travesty, because again, it took the best character besides Qui-Gon, and it turned him, they Jake Skywalkered him, as they like to say. It's like, it feels to me that's the only thing that they can think to do with any legacy character, is make them broken and sad, so that they can bring in their new character to kind of pick up the slack for them. But their new characters are worthless too. So at this point, I feel like it does feel like Jon Favreau had a vision for The Mandalorian that could have gone on and been entertaining for ages. And again, it's not highbrow. It's not particularly, complex, but it's entertaining and you can take it or leave it. It's, again, what I love most about the original Star Wars trilogy was high adventure with some emotional stakes. And those emotional stakes could come from whatever characters he was dealing with that episode. You get to know them. I cared about the fishing village in the Cara Dune episode of The Mandalorian, and the idea that he could settle down there. I kind of like that emotional stakes for him as well. Is like, maybe he's looking for a place to settle down and hang his helmet up, but something keeps happening where he can't. Whether it be through his commitment or his personal ideology, or, things keep forcing him to move along, or maybe a little bit of both. And I like, people kind of criticize the Mandalorians for being kind of zealots, but I like the idea that they have their own kind of based code of honor that may not make sense to everybody, you may not agree with, but at least it's a value system that even if he doesn't have a lot of character, you can see that he's motivated by it. I saw some people in some reaction videos making fun of "This Is the Way." Well, I don't have a problem with that. That's like, may the force be with you, or so say we all. It's kind of part of who they are as a culture. This is the way. Can I get a "this is the way" in the chat? So, yeah, again, at this point, here's what I'm seeing from the different reactions to this. Let freedom ring. God bless America. Yes, sir. One of the things I'm seeing, and again, this, there are Andor fans, and there are Mandalorian fans, and there's original trilogy, prequel, that sort of thing. But what I'm seeing from the reactions now is no one is going to be happy with this, no matter where you're coming from, to some degree. You know, for me, what really kind of sealed its fate is when Baba Frick, you know, I saw him. My reaction was, "Get the frick out of here!" Like, you know, essentially, you know that it's whatever happens, it's all tied into the stupid sequels trilogy, and that's dooming it. You know, we may get some episodes to enjoy out of it. There's some fun stuff, but there's some stuff that it's like, again, they're stuck in the same things. And I think they're always going to be staples. You know, we'll always want to see lightsabers at least every once in a while. We want spaceship battles. You know, we want some cool fights and creatures, robots, droids, aliens. But there's an infinite amount of ways to mix those up and change them and keep them interesting. And I think, again, that's what George Lucas wanted. And it feels like Jon Favreau wanted to honor George Lucas in that sense. But as long as Disney's got it, and as long as the sequel trilogy exists, we're all going to have kind of that sort of Damocles hanging over our head that is the sequel trilogy, and that everything still seems to be tying back to that. So I just don't see any point in bothering with it anymore. I think that the only choice really is to walk away from this trilogy, or not trilogy, this franchise. I think Jon Favreau had a valiant effort, and he gave us some good stuff that I'll rewatch, I'll enjoy. But it's done for. You know, all I can do is, like I said, I can create Escape from Planet Omega 12, which for me is going to be partially my homage to George Lucas and what I think he would enjoy, because ultimately that's, again, what Star Wars came from. And like I said, we don't have to be precious with this, but he wanted to create something that was like his own kind of modern retelling, his own interpretation of the Saturday morning serials like Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers, and tell his own version of it. And I think people should be going out and enjoying and telling their own versions of it without it being Star Wars. Like what we want from Star Wars. I think the problem is that, you know, you get people like Overlord DVD, whose channel I love. But you know, he's stuck on saving these franchises. The idea of, you know, and I do agree with his choice to criticize their choices and to criticize how they handle the properties. I think we learn from that. I'm very grateful for Overlord DVD, as well as Midnight's Edge and The Critical Drinker and Drunk 3PO and all these people criticizing the choices that these companies make, criticizing their practices, critiquing their offerings. But I don't see it being saved. And I don't see any point in hanging around and watching it continue to deteriorate, just wishing that it would get better. I think one of the reasons that I appreciate so much Roger Corman's efforts, which was Battle Beyond the Stars and Galaxy of Terror, and there's a few others that always elude me. Forbidden World, and there's some outside of that. There was one that I saw reviewed the other day. Zane wrote some kick-ass Star Wars novels, says Kingsport Cal. Also, Dark Horse Comics had great stories. Yeah, and
yeah, Timothy Zahn probably had the best of not only the expanded universe, but he also has the best of the Disney universe novels. And because he created probably one of the top 5 greatest characters in Star Wars, and that's Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Mm-hmm. Which they've hinted at. And
no, they've already included him. He's in the
Rebels,
because Rebels is canon. So
that's I always forget to include the Rebels and
Clone Wars are canon.
Yeah. But Thunderduck, welcome to the show. Hello. So yeah, and I do think Kingsbrook Hal that there will probably be some Thrawn in Mandalorian season 3 or Ahsoka, because
we'll see him in Ahsoka, and apparently the person they've got playing him is the same guy that voices him on in the series,
like they did with
Kitty Sackhoff and
and I'm blocking on the character's name, but anyway, with Ahsoka, I kind of have some hope for Ahsoka, because my understanding is that that's a Jon Favreau project as well, that he's kind of went off and did that series on his own without too much meddling. We hope that he did it without too much meddling. So I do think that there will still be some good material, but again, as long as so long as it's headed towards the sequel trilogy, like all the conclusions, all the roads converge on that, it makes it harder to enjoy. Because, I mean, all right, so let's play the game of what would we do if we were put in charge of Star Wars and Disney Plus tomorrow.
Fire Kathleen Kennedy.
I'm not talking about like the who we would fire or anything like that. Just, if we had complete God mode control over it. I would honestly, here's what I would do. Very quietly working behind the scenes, I would make a new sequel trilogy that used the latest technology to bring back the original characters, through deep fake or AI or whatever. I would probably kind of retool The Mandalorian a little bit. And then one day, without saying anything, I just delete everything and put that retooled Mandalorian up and the new Star Wars, all 3 movies, just not say anything and let people discover it. And then the people will be going like, what happened to Book of Boba Fett? Where's the sequels that I know? And that sort of thing. It was like, what are you talking about? This is it. This is what we got, they'll be able to pirate it, find it other places if they really care about it. But people keep talking about things like the mirror universe, or the will of the force, or I forget what all that is. This ringing a bell? Like the
world between worlds.
Yeah, the world between worlds. Like all that stuff is so convoluted to me. I can't take it seriously.
You talked about doing things quietly. I'm like, no. I'd go, all right, this is no longer canon. This is no longer canon.
Yeah, just forget about it.
This is no longer canon. Just, we're not even going to, we're going to remove them. You can't, unless you own physical copies, you're never going to see this stuff again.
Yeah, you don't need a big explanation. Just
like, oh no, I'd come out and tell them it sucks. We're getting rid of it.
Yeah, and I'd apologize. Like, I'm sorry you had to endure that, and just treat it like the holiday special or the Ewok Adventure Battle for Endor or something like that. Just kind of quietly let it slip away into obscurity and act like it never happened.
The holiday special is a masterpiece.
I like it.
Without the holiday special, we wouldn't have Boba Fett.
Yeah, but you didn't need the holiday special for Boba Fett. He was going to happen anyway. And he was originally going to be a new type of stormtrooper as well. They just scaled it back because it was so expensive to make a whole bunch of new uniforms in that style. But again, I think that's the only way you're going to save it is to just let this stuff slip away and start from scratch. I think The Mandalorian, again, that formula worked as long as you kept it in the realm of The Mandalorian. But, it's like, I don't know. It's too complex, as well. Someone like me, I can't keep track of everything. I enjoyed the Clone Wars, but I didn't watch every episode. I read when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, and the Timothy Zahn novels came out. I thought those were fantastic because those were supposed to be the new trilogy. Lucas was saying like, well, I'm not going to make a new trilogy, but these books are canon. And I remember sharing, like, I'd buy it and I'd read it and I'd give it to my friends for them to borrow, and they'd read it. We'd talk about it, and it was fun stuff, you know? And, you know, the comics were fun. The fact that you can get expanded universe and novels and video games and all these different scenarios that kind of, if you were that hardcore into Star Wars, you could, you know, explore that world. But if you were just a casual fan of the movies, you didn't, you know, you could just go and watch the movies. But going back to The Mandalorian, though, one of the things I think, like I said, that really thrills me about it is, you know, it is analogous to the Western. And, you know, we're kind of, now that we have the internet and we have the ability to share more information and research and discover and spread ideas that before we would have been confined to, you know, what we saw on the news or who we were able to talk to in our local neighborhood or coffee shop or something like that. You know, we're discovering all these things about our culture and about our history. And, you know, to me, the idea of what happened during the prequels with Palpatine kind of being this beloved leader on the surface of things, but behind the scenes being the person causing all the chaos for years and becoming a tyrant and, you know, setting up this society where the Empire ruled everything and controlled industry and commerce and supply chains and all that, and until there was a buildup and a rebellion, and the fact that there was this great war that caused in billions of lives in the context of the Star Wars
Apparently,
universe.
we have good news here.
Jeremy Renner is out of the hospital and at his home. Fantastic. I saw someone trying to spread a rumor that he had his legs amputated. I was like, that's not cool. Yes, Jeremy Renner. We need a Star Wars movie with Jeremy Renner and Brendan Fraser.
Oh my God. I wanted so much that Brendan was Anakin.
You know, I'm just trying to take beloved actors that Force Awakens made me cry. The other two just made me cry out of sadness. I gotta say,
Indeed.
so my experience with The Force Awakens was, you know, I really went into that movie. Like, I think I waited about a week before I went and saw it because I didn't want to be crammed into a theater and I was doing other stuff. That was kind of like, you know, I know this is a strange thing to say, but I had enjoyed the J.J. Abrams Star Treks, probably because I knew that because he created an alternative timeline, they didn't feel like canon. So again, I was free to enjoy them without worrying about how they kind of are so different than what Star Trek is. And I thought, okay, this is the guy that's going to bring that, you know, it wasn't entirely appropriate for Star Trek sense of adventure and fun into Star Wars. And I just remember sitting there watching it, sitting in the seat, just as things were going on. I'm just going like, this is a problem. This is like pretty much from the start. But at first I was like, okay, well, let's see where this is going. But as the movie went on, I just kept going like, this is it? Like, you were handed Star Wars and this is what you're doing? This is stupid. Yeah, you know, and Harrison Ford just wasted as a character of Han Solo. And like Chris Gore of Film Thread has pointed out, you know, they had the opportunity to give us Han, Luke, and Leia.
Harrison Ford only came back because they promised to kill his character.
Do we know that for sure?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wanted to die in Empire.
Well, I knew that he wanted a heroic death, but yeah, I think the least they could have done is given him an actual heroic death rather than the villain's death, which again, this is what Chris Gore has pointed out, but the villain is the one who falls down the end of this chasm at the end. You know, that's what you expect from those type of things. But the least they could have done is brought Han, Luke, Leia, and Lando back together for one kind of rip-roaring adventure. But I know that Harrison Ford has never quite respected that character like he has others. I just revisited last night. Night before last, Temple of Doom was on. And I have Chris Gore's personal number. I might as well. I got his email.
Monkey, hang on. I picked up that name he dropped.
Chris Gore, I was going to do I forget what it was. I had gotten Chris Gore to agree to come on to a live stream with me and Sean Malone from Out of Frame. And he flaked out on us at the last minute. And then I've told that story to other live streamers. They're like, he did the same thing to me. So, but yeah, I respect what Chris Gore had to say about it. And, Harrison, like I said, I watched Temple of Doom the other night. I mean, man, Indiana Jones is such a great character. And, I really respect Harrison Ford as an actor. I loved him in The Fugitive. I love that kind of quiet man acting that he did for that role. And even though Tommy Lee Jones kind of stole the show in that movie, I thought there was a lot to be said for Harrison Ford's performance in that. It's an interesting guy. He seems to like being a man's man, but at the same time, he's part of that Hollywood system. I mean, he came up in it. He knew George Lucas before George Lucas was anybody, and vice versa.
Well, since we're talking about original series characters, I would like to see, Monkey, you keep dropping that name. Need to pick that up and dust that off and keep it in your pocket. I would like to wish
pump those names.
James Earl Jones a very happy 92nd birthday.
Yes. Another great actor. Mufasa.
Oh, man. I was watching The Hunt for the Red October with my daughter. And when he appears, I said to her, that is Darth Vader's voice. And her eyes went big as plates. No way.
You can hear it. He seems like a fun guy. He seems like a very intelligent, regal guy. And I think probably it comes from that classical training. He's a classically trained actor. But he's done everything, Coming to America, The Lion King, of course, Star Wars, Conan. Yeah, he was amazing in Conan. He's just such a presence, and you don't see actors like that anymore. He is Chris. He's agreeing with me. Like, you found me out. I'm actually James Earl Jones. Disney might just Star Wars. Money trouble is gonna for them.
He's missing sell. He's talking about selling Star Wars. Disney. The first thing Disney's going to sell is going to be Pixar, and they're going to sell Pixar to Apple.
They're going to.
That's my prediction.
James' personal phone number on speed dial says Kings per Cal. With Disney, again, they're having all sorts of money trouble. I mean, the rumor is that Disney might just sell Disney to Apple, which would be interesting, especially since I've got an interview for a job at Apple tomorrow. So wish me luck there. Who knows what's going to happen, but Disney's lost a lot of money on this stuff. And this is the most interesting thing is just you have this amazing ship with no one at the wheel. And it's been that way for ages. And it almost seems like the people who do grab the wheel every once in a while seem only intent on crashing the ship. I don't get that. Ultimately, here's the thing about Disney and pretty much most corporations now. they aren't interested in telling good stories. They're not interested in preserving the legacy of any of these properties or their artistic merit. They have one single goal, and it's
The
a sad
message.
one. What's that?
The message.
Well, it's not the message is just kind of the means to an end for them. Ultimately, it's this. They want to be able to break their audience down, and not even just their audience, but we as consumers, whether it's audience or we're buying food or whatever. They want to break us down into categories. They want to do it by race. They want to do it by gender. They want to do it by sexuality. They want to do it by religion, what movies we like, whatever it is. They want to break us down into categories because they want to label us. Because if they can break us into categories and segregate us and label us, then it makes it easier for them to create products for us to consume. The whole goal, and I'm saying this as a proud free market, constitution-loving capitalist, they want to eliminate our choice, not because they despise the idea of freedom. It just is the choice and freedom make it more difficult for them to monopolize the market and sell to us and dictate the prices and keep us buying every time. They just want to be able to slap a label that says Star Wars or Star Trek or whatever the franchise is on some cheap piece of plastic and put it in front of us and say, $50, please. And we go, yes. And we give them money,
No,
whether it
not
be
$50, please. Just $50.
50, whatever it is,
Without the please.
Essentially what it is it's just they want to categorize us, label us so that they can keep funneling our money up to them. And whatever we earn through our excuse me through our own means, they want to just make sure that funnels up to us. And that's why they love situations like a couple of years ago where we were all packed like sardines into our homes and just consuming media through Disney Plus. They didn't care about the movie theaters. The only reason they care about the movie theaters now is because we all got bored of being at home and they couldn't keep us in there and they couldn't keep us locked into streaming all the time. And they, again, they didn't care about the product because our choices were limited. But now the choice to, there are more and more streaming services. There are more and more options. So now they want to get us back into the theaters. But they don't care what it is. All they care about, again, is atomizing us, keeping us segregated into different categories, preferably arguing with each other all the time about superficial things like whether AI is good or bad, or, whether The Mandalorian is better or Andor is better or Star Trek is better or Star Wars or whatever it is. All the superficial stuff, which, is enjoyable to a degree, but when it becomes points of contention where we're all constantly locked in heated debate filled with hostility, we're not paying attention to the fact that they're the ones that are continuing to wreck this stuff for no other reason than to keep us in our little boxes so they can keep funneling our money up into their pockets. So, Velma is the most recent example. Like, I enjoyed Scooby-Doo when I was a kid, and I liked watching it with my kids when they were younger. But why should I care about Scooby-Doo now? The only reason to care about it is to understand that to them, it's not about Velma at all. It's just about destroying any cultural touchstones that we might be able to identify with and therefore express an identity ourselves. So, because again, if we're individuals, if we're expressing individual identity with different ideas and different values, then we're harder to market to. We're harder to siphon money from. So, again, this is why I'm just, I'm looking at this new trailer for The Mandalorian and I'm thinking it's promising some things that I will enjoy. I enjoyed the idea of The Mandalorian. I enjoy spaceships and aliens. But you can see that the bait and switch is still there because they just, for some reason, are hell bent on you wanting to own, a Baba Frick toy, or, hell bent on making you think that you have to own a copy of the sequel trilogy or whatever it is. It has no value, but they're using it as a means to try and continue to siphon value from us, which is, again, why I want to support the independent creators who might look at Star Wars and go, okay, I'm not going to do a Star Wars movie, but I'm going to do something that's kind of what I would call like the Mandela effect of Star Wars. Take the things that resonate in your memories and your imagination and you feel you want to see more of and express it in a new way. Create something that's not Star Wars. That's, in my case, Escape from Planet Omega 12. Escape from Planet Omega 12 is absolutely an homage to everything that I felt Star Wars and all these other things like was it Adventures in the Forbidden Zone and like all these different posters and comic books and that sort of thing, and put it through the filter that is me and make it be something that is both an homage to that and something that's inherently originally my own expression. And that's what I want to see from other people. These corporations, you're just never going to get that. So, and I'm coming to the conclusion like 20 minutes before we're actually supposed to wrap up the show. But, this is all they want. So Kings Porcal says we kind of get some of that through fan films. Yeah, I adore the idea of fan films. When it comes, my only problem with fan films is that they are made by fans who really want to kind of just express the best parts of what they love about a particular thing. They're not filmmakers. They're not really putting an effort into evolving it into something that is inherently theirs. Rather, it's more of a fulfillment. They want to cosplay. They want to wear the costumes. They want to be the one to fight Darth Vader. They want to be the one to wield the lightsaber. Thunderduck says Star Wars is no evergreen IP anymore. It's becoming niche. Yeah, well, again, that's like I said. I understand both points of view in terms of like people see Star Wars and they go, oh, enough of the lightsabers already. Well, if you get rid of the lightsabers, you have your own thing. It doesn't have to be the Star Wars universe unless you want to use those names. If you want to use the Empire and talk about stormtroopers and that sort of thing, once you take away the things that make Star Wars an IP that you can get sued for making movies or comics of, then you're free because no one owns space opera. No one owns outer space. No one owns spaceships, aliens, robots. What Star Wars is, what Disney owns is, I think the term droids. They own lightsabers. They own the Force. Or with, hey, Jurassic Park or WWE, like Monkey Jeebus says. No one owns professional wrestling, but you do own WWE. No one owns dinosaurs. You just own Jurassic Park. Even the idea of genetically engineered dinosaurs isn't 100% copyrightable. Elon Musk owns space and robots and stuff, says Boosh McFadden. And welcome, Boosh McFadden, to the show. There's just, light sword or laser sword, says King's Porcal. There's different ways. I even came up with my own idea for what my own version of a lightsaber would be, which is both completely different from a lightsaber, and also people would look at it and instantly go like, oh, that's kind of like lightsabers, except I can't get sued over it. I want to see people, and again, this is my enthusiasm for AI, and not just AI art, but the way that AI is being used to generate text or motion capture or to solve code. Oh my God, I've been seeing people feed code. They say learn to code. Programmers who code are going, I'm having trouble with this piece of code. I fed it into a chatbot and said, what's wrong with this code? And it spit back out the correct code for me. And I used it and it works. the idea that somebody, and again, this is an example that I use and I think of a lot. Imagine you're like Stephen Hawking style quadriplegic and you live like in the middle of nowhere, like in a trailer with no money. And Thunderduck says, by the way, before I finish that thought, Star Wars and Star Trek crossover, this will save it for sure. Yeah, crossovers are always what happens when the properties are on their last leg. Vince McMahon would like to differ, says Wolverine626. No one owns pro wrestling. Yeah, well, Vince McMahon has been very competitive. But on Sundays, we do our the Dork Side of the Ring. I don't do it, but I was on it last weekend with Dork Night talking about wrestling. And he's I only know WWE. He knows all the different things. But anyway, the scenario is this. There's someone out there who's a quadriplegic who has no money and is probably locked in a room most of the day with, maybe a family member or someone coming in to clean them up. And, they've got ideas in their head, but they're never going to be able to get them out. But now with the new technology, they may be able to start to, with their eye, select words, to write prompts, to create images that they can then animate that look realistic. And then suddenly they can realize their vision where before they couldn't. Monkey Jeebus says, the minute you are okay with stories made by AI, you're a total consumer. Yeah, I don't. There's actually, I might do an interview with someone who is doing an AI script writing software. So absolutely, you can't just have a AI tell you a story, just say, give me a story with this, this, and this. I think you can use AI to, what I've used it for is formatting. So I'll write out what I want and I'll feed it into the chatbot, and the chatbot will format it in a way, I'll say like, it has to be this number of pages. I haven't used it for writing, but I actually used it for my resume, where I said, I've always been terrible at formatting resumes. But AI has access to all these different versions of resumes that are nicely formatted. So instead of me researching for hours how to properly format my resume and then try and do that on my own, I just gave it my resume. I said, this is all the details of my resume. Can you fit it onto one page and make it look professional? And it did it for me. And it looked great. And I got callbacks right away. But yeah, you have to, again, this goes back to what I said at the beginning of the show. I definitely don't want to live in a world where everything is just AI generated. Hey, write me. It was Max Landis said this. He said, like, every producer in Hollywood with a stupid idea that they wanted to get past a writer, that, that's all we're going to see that now. We're going to see every stupid idea a producer ever had fed into an AI and just spit out in the form of a script. And it's going to be awful. But on the other hand, what that's going to do is that's going to create what's, essentially what's happening now with YouTube live streamers. We're going to have a reaction of people going, yeah, this is garbage. How do we make it better? JJ did it already. He put R2 in 2009. Yeah. Peter Bakeman's fan site. I think you're talking about when R2D2 is floating amongst the destroyed ships in the Star Trek movie that he did. Yeah, I mean, at the time that was kind of exciting. That was like J.J. Abrams saying like, hey, I can make an adventure-driven Star Wars movie. And watching that version of Star Trek, you kind of looked at it and went, like, this is Star Trek, but it's not really Star Trek. It's more Star Trek as Star Wars, which was okay for a little bit, but it's not what we want. So I think, AI is going to make hand-drawn and hand-painted works more desirable, more valuable, because ultimately we're going to be just inundated so much, it's not going to feel special anymore.
Desirable, no.
What?
Valuable, yes. Desirable, not.
I think, again, it's like CGI. I mean, I see normies.
And my point of view, better said, my explanation for this is, yeah, it will become more valuable because handmade artwork will become much more scarce than is today. So its value will increase, and precisely for that, mm,
Yeah,
mass producers of entertainment won't look for it because it will be cheaper to use AI. So valuable but not desirable.
I think after a while, I mean, it's the same thing, like I said, with the overabundance of CGI when CGI first hit and became the big fad. Was I worked at a movie theater and I saw people coming out going, "That's just too much CGI, too CGI heavy." People start looking for new things. Peter Venkman Fansite says the way people write these days, you'd think they'd written one anyways. Well, here's the thing: we're and Kingsport all says, my father hates the new Star Trek stuff, hates it. My brother likes it though. Well, so AI, again, just to speak to this point, same with the artists blaming AI for saying that it's like suddenly it's the reason they're not making money as artists. No, they weren't making money as artists before. Now they've just got a new whipping boy, a new sacrificial lamb or whatever you want to call it, to blame for their not being as successful as they believe they're entitled to be. And ultimately, sorry, Winston's barking. Ultimately, it's going to be as it's always been, it's going to be the best of the best that catch our notice. And that's in the world of art. That's a very select few people.
JJ is living proof that you don't have to be the best of the best.
Yeah, but we're talking about Hollywood's game and Hollywood's numbers and but 10 years from now, 20 years from now, it's going to fade into obscurity. No one's going to be talking about this stuff, but we still will talk about how great the original Star Wars was, how great Indiana Jones was, the first 3 movies. Posterity will bear out the best. There are examples of very successful, famous artists in the past who everyone was talking about at the time, who nobody knows who they are now. Posterity will bear it out. And, same with just the glut of all this terrible stuff. Some things will rise to the top. And we go through ebbs and flows as well. The fact of the matter is that before AI became a bone of contention, we were already complaining about how terrible the state of entertainment and art is right now. It already was that way, and it's not because of AI. It's because people who keep employing Damon Lindelof are in charge, and they just can't stop. They just can't help it. They just can't keep going to the same well over and over again, no matter how many times we tell them it's not working. But as long as they keep making money, as long as we keep consuming it, like I said before, as long as we keep, hey, Dragon Roos, you just woke up. That's nice. I want to take a nap. But the thing is that, I lost my train of thought for a second there. We need something to shake it up. Like I said, because their solution to every problem is the same over and over again. Emasculate the legacy character, bring in someone who's better at everything or the best at everything, and rinse and repeat. You get people like that's De Niro will always hopefully be remembered as a great actor. Yeah, let's hope that De Niro's later work gets forgotten pretty quick. And it is, nobody's talking about Bad Grandpa, but we'll still talk about Taxi Driver. Ultimately, we need a shakeup. And again, I'm not 100% enthusiastic about AI. I do have reservations about its use in other areas in terms of what it's going to do to our economy and our the workload that individuals take on and jobs and that sort of thing, as well as over dependence on it and creatively, like Martin, you've pointed out many times. I do believe you're right. But if you look at the best stuff that's coming out today, it is still actual artists who learn their craft, who are taking advantage of these tools. You can put tools in the hand, you can put a hammer in the hand of somebody, but unless they've actually learned how to build a house, you're not going to get a house out of them. They might smash some rocks or hit their finger with it. And that's what we're going to see a lot of people doing with AI. And it's going to be gross and stupid, and we're going to have to endure a lot of it. But at the same time, it'll empower some people to go and surpass what Hollywood is doing. And maybe after a while, we'll get tired of this kind of weird deal we have with Hollywood, where we're just finding things to complain. The thing of the week to complain about. This week, it's Velma. Now probably it's going to be the Mandalorian trailer. My hope was to talk about, we're early, aren't we? We got 4 minutes left. My hope is to talk about the best part of the Mandalorian, the things about it that Jon Favreau's Star Wars really kind of made me feel excited about. And it's my hope, if I had me a hammer, Kingsburg Hal. Yeah, that hammer analogy is useful. The 5-minute warning. Monkey Jeebus. Boosh McFadden says it will be Stan's wife from South Park Pandemic Special. I didn't see that one. But yeah, it's my hope in talking about the best parts of Jon Favreau's Star Wars, that I hope, people take something away from that and go, oh, I can take the things that excited me most about any given thing and kind of gather those to myself, put them through the filter of who I am, and create something new that both pays homage to that and expresses who I am as an individual. And maybe we'll get people excited again. And maybe we'll be so different that it takes us in a new direction. And that's my real hope.
And maybe 3 other artists will file a class suit against you.
Yeah. Well, there's always going to be someone who's mad about something, looking for someone to blame. These 3 artists, like I said, that we touched on at the beginning, I mean, I wish them well in their endeavors, and I do want to see everybody be successful. I'm happy to see people succeed, even people who I don't agree with, maybe in their ideological push or their particular values. I mean, I think that this is what creativity is about, is taking different points of view, different ways of doing things, and mixing them together and seeing what those ingredients kind of create for us next and what direction that takes us in. The idea that you can see something going in a certain direction, though, and you don't like it, and therefore you want to stop it for whatever reason. These people don't have any horse in the race. They're not being stolen from. They're not even so special as their artwork is the driving force behind AI. AI barely knows that they exist in terms of like diffusion noise. These are people who are trying to take the current topic and act like they're, by being ideologically opposed, that somehow makes them morally good and important. They're trying to kind of throw their hat in the ring with it and grift. It's a grift. I hate to say it, and that's, what that's saying? That's saying that you don't have the faith in what you do that you need to be truly successful. It's better to just grift off of what's going on and, see if you can make a name for yourself that way. And it's disingenuous. It's no one will remember your name. And this is the way. So with that, Are we gonna play out with music, Martin? Is that how the end of the show is gonna go?
Yeah, no, let me.
Let's boogie.
Oh, we have a minute yet. But if you want to leave us,
Should we just end with a "This is the way"?
oh,
This is
I
the way.
found it. Well, goodbye, my friends.